Okay, now go back to your real talk or real talk,
Real talk.
whatever it is.
Okay.
Your legacy.
Yeah.
It's it's Christmas time this week.
Hey, y'all. Thanks for tuning in to Real Talk by Our Stories, Your Legacy. And today we are back doing another fire round episode, philosophizing, theorizing around today's topic, as any close group of friends would do. And so not coincidentally, we thought of this as in light of the U.S. government approving another round of stimulus checks this week. And so we wanted to theorize on a what if scenario. And so in today's episode, we're going to answer the one question. And that question is, if every citizen in the U.S. was to receive $1,000 a month unconditionally and no changes to the current living conditions as now, how do you think the U.S. society will react as a whole? Or maybe on a micro level, or maybe even if you want to theorize on a macro level. But we got this based off, potential presidential candidate Andrew Yang, talking about universal income. Stuff like this happens all in other parts of the world. So, it's a fun thing to theorize about because, us as mainly U.S. citizens, haven't seen something of this light. So it's fun to talk about it. So, as always, before we begin, we're going to do a quick check-in around the room just to see who is here today. Also introduce our first-time special guest joining us, and hopefully for a lot more episodes down the road. But I'm gonna start with her, Allie. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks for having you on the show. It's honestly
What?
Yeah.
Oh, that was good.
Yeah, but anyways, thank you, Allie. And we're trying to get her on to the next episode as well. So if you enjoyed her on this episode, please let us know because we can block it if necessary. Just kidding.
Thanks.
Andrew, what's going on, man? How are you today?
Good. Finishing up some Christmas shopping. Yeah, that's kind of on my last minute. I usually plan a little bit earlier around this time of year. I usually try to get it done by Black Friday, but kind of stalled this year. So just finishing that up today. Got a couple more people I got to shop for. So,
man, this year has been crazy. I was just dropping off mail, just like not even like gifts, just dropping off mail, and like the post office slammed everywhere.
Yeah, you gotta wait in line just to get in the post office.
Yeah. Yeah, and usually, I didn't really shop for too much gifts this year. Just Vanessa did all the shopping, but usually
that means we didn't get gifts this year, so it's okay.
No, no. I'm bad at giving gifts, but for guys, I'm easier because I'll just send you a bottle. But
still waiting.
But usually we'll do gift shopping like typically around Black Friday, but time's a little different.
Yeah.
Good to have you on again, brother. Tyler, how's it going with you today, man?
You know how it is, man. Same shit, different day. Sorry,
I thought I said Tyler, not Zvan.
Is that a homage?
Someone had to embrace it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how it feels, honestly. Same stuff, different day. But doing well. Have a little bit of headache earlier. Stomach was kind of feeling a little weird for some reason today. Not sure why, but hey, we're here. We can have a good chat. Much like Andrew, actually, to Andrew's point, I have not done all my shopping yet. Should probably do that. It's the 21st now. It's Christmas.
So Christmas is only this week.
It's only this week.
I know.
No
4
big
days
deal.
away. 3 days technically, because that's all you have left to be able to shop.
True that.
Yeah.
But I'm done. I'm not going out anywhere.
Yeah, I know it's hectic out there, so I'm trying to avoid shopping centers if possible. Luckily, a lot of the shopping centers, like we saw yesterday, were just like staying up until 10 or 11, even midnight this week. And I know a lot of people do not shop that late. At least a couple stores we hit up yesterday was, like 9 o'clock, and there was like no one in the stores. So kind of looking forward to that.
That's time to shop then, huh?
best time to shop. I mean, that's normally when I shop anyways.
Yeah, you guys don't shop at midnight. I mean, come on.
No, yeah. I mean, hey, if I have stuff to do, like last minute gifts and stuff, I always go like the week of Christmas at like 9 p.m. Usually it's like to the mall or something to get like the last minute gifts, but
Yeah.
not that many people there. Yeah, it's kind of nice. A lot of people try to take work off and go to the store. And with COVID this year, a lot of people are working from home, so they're actually just taking advantage of being able to go to the store during the day. So it's a lot more hectic. So
That's very true. Yeah, I mean the Fred Meyer's that's by our house, I find it more enjoyable to shop for groceries like late in the evening, 9, 8, 9, 10 o'clock.
yeah, there've been days where like we after our podcast we pop over to Fred Meyer just to
Right.
9:30, 10 o'clock. It's like, all right, let's go grocery shopping real quick.
Yeah. Best time.
It is.
Is it snowing right now down there in the south?
It wasn't the last time I checked. It was raining, but it could be.
I was
getting
gonna
some
say,
rain.
yeah, we had a flood in our parking lot earlier,
Mm.
so
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, it was raining.
Yeah, it was raining earlier today, but it started snowing a little bit. So, but not sticking though. But rain
Not
snow
snow.
mix. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's
So
something to look forward to. Snow always bring peace. So let's see what kind of peaceful, feeling it brings this coming week up to the end of the year. All right, thanks you guys for joining in. We are missing our longtime good friend Zavon, so he is checking out for today. Hopefully, we'll catch him next week. So let's jump in. So, as a reminder, the question, and we're gonna kind of leave it open-ended, and just anyone can jump in to answer it. If every citizen in the U.S. was to receive $1,000 a month unconditionally, and currently with no changes to our current living standards and conditions as of now, how do you think we would all react as a society? You can answer this on a personal level or what you think as a what-if scenario to the general public. Table's open. What do you got, Allie?
no changes to our current living situations and stuff for like standards.
As of right now, yeah.
Honestly, like $1,000 doesn't go very far nowadays. So, I mean, I wouldn't see too much changes. I think the biggest thing would be people feeling not as strapped, maybe, but I feel like people would find a way to spend it real quick. But I think that it would help just provide a little bit more cushion. Like you can get ahead a little bit quicker as far as ahead of your bills, and you're not always just like minimum payments all the time, or just trying to save a little bit of the check. Like you could save that whole $1,000 if your current paycheck is taking care of everything else. I also think there would be like that small percentage that would just try and live off $1,000 a month without having to do anything, which is fair. I feel like you're going to have that in any type of society. We have it now, like unemployment and all the assistance that people can get. They choose not to work and do that. But I think that $1,000 would be helpful in the fact that people could actually like save and get ahead a little bit, not feel so paycheck to paycheck, and basic needs could be met a little bit more. I think it'd be super impactful on lower poverty families and people just like trying to make it. Don't think it's that impactful for like people higher income, obviously. But you're going to have different responses across the board. I think it would be great. And I wish it would happen. But I also, the other side of me is like, people can take advantage of a good thing. So.
Right. No, that's huge. Yeah. Cause especially if it's unconditional, cause obviously if it's just 1K with conditions, obviously then that could provide much more restrictions. But I love what you said, especially in today's living standards. 1,000 doesn't really go very far as it used to. I was just thinking about this the other day, where you remember when we were kids, like an aunt or an uncle or a grandparent giving you $20, that went a long way in your wallet. Now it's like $20 is nothing. I need $100 to feel what I felt when I was a kid. Like, you got to give me $100 to make it feel like it's worth, something. And yeah, it's true. 1K may not go as far. Again, you got to think about, for me personally, I think of it as where I'm at personally. I got to check my privilege. So, I'm working a fairly good income job that I can, even during this pandemic, feel pretty wealthy. I'm able to take advantage of things that people probably can't take advantage of, like, buying a property or refinancing a property, things that actually made me wealthier, right? 1K, yeah. It may not be a lot, but personally for me, I feel like 1K, kind of like what you mentioned earlier, Ali, will free up a little bit of more basic necessities, Now I could use that 1K, maybe half of it towards helping out with groceries and gas and maybe some other bills. But then the other half, maybe that could supplement more of my wealth building, dreams and goals. But you're right. When it comes to basic needs from a low income family, that is probably very helpful in that sense too. I think for me, the biggest one is, if it's unconditional, would that be much more of a negative thing to a lot of people? Because you're right. People find ways to just blow that, and so that's something that philosophizing about it, it's just like, personally for me, 1K will help out so much monthly for free, because that will help me, especially with the mindset I have now, help me grow further. But with someone who it just falls on their lap, will they be able to take advantage of it, especially if there's no conditions?
Yeah, that was the interesting thing that actually, like, they implemented this in a study down in Missouri with a group of 20 single mothers, and gave them, it was a nonprofit that put it on, and they gave them $1,000 a month. They wanted to see what would happen if they provided the universal basic income for these families. And the first month, that's exactly what happened. Like, they had never had access to just $1,000 like upfront like this. And so it was gone within the first week. And so then they noticed, though, the gap of financial literacy and actually being able to save, and like what you can do, like, because these mothers were like, oh my God, I have this money. I'm going to give my kids, fly clothes so that people know we're good, we're established, those kind of things. But then in the program, they actually decided to set them up with financial advisors and teach them the value of $1. And then, the moms kind of switched to okay, buying from the clearance is okay. Now my dollar stretches further and we can do this and this, and they could actually get out of the projects. So if you implement this program, there's definitely going to be an education that has to come with it, because it's lacking. Right. You can't just hand people money and say, go figure it out.
Right.
But yeah, definitely some education.
No, that's huge. And what study was that from?
The
you said where?
It was down in Missouri, I believe.
Oh, gotcha.
The Washington Post did a article and a podcast about it. Actually, it was really cool.
Yeah, and that's tough, because if we stay true to our quote, our prompt of the day, it has to be unconditional. But from us, I agree, because you hit it on the head from that long rant that I was going on. Financial literacy is the key. For me, an extra $1,000 a month, I welcome that, because I can take that. I can still handle all my bills, but use that extra $1,000 towards something else that will, help me financially grow wealthier. Where, unfortunately, for those who don't have that financial literacy, that is something that, especially if this $1,000 a month is unconditional, that is something that can be more of a deterrent to their lifestyle rather than, beneficial. But
yeah,
let's see what Andrew has to say. What do you think, Ben?
For me, it's just a lot to unpack, right? So there's a lot of things that come into my mind about it, and $1,000 a month at the individual level, I mean, really sounds great. But you look at it for society, and this is going to be a long-term thing. How do you sustain that? How do you give but what's the U.S. population? 6 million or 600 million, something like that. How do you sustain that population with $1,000 a month? I mean, I can only imagine the amount of taxes or where that money is coming from. You know what I mean? You give to the people, but something also has to kind of come from somewhere else as far as money goes, and that's what I've been thinking about. And when you pose that question is, how do we sustain that if we were actually going to do that? Because a lot of that city, county, state, federal taxes come into play to sustain projects like that go back to the public, which is like street work, highways, buildings, whether it be commerce, something like that, to increase the economy, right? And so
Right.
you get the stimulus is for boosting the economy because people are going to be spending that. So the intent of it would be to give them money so that people can spend it, and then it increases that cycle of the economy again. So I don't know. I guess that's a bigger question, but that's kind of the angle I went with it is how do you make it last? Because sooner or later, just like oil or any other resource is going to dry out, right?
Right.
So like you just have to figure out a system of where this tax would be on giving back to the people to $1,000 a month, but what are people willing to pay for? And if they're going to pay, if there's a tax in place, that means the people have to pay for it too. So that $1,000 really kind of thins out.
Right.
Kind of going back to your analogy, it's like, oh yeah, I have $20. It's so much money now. Like even $1,000 doesn't seem like that much amount of money, right? Because
yeah.
there's a car bill is like what, anywhere from $300 to $500. That's half your check right there. So it's other things have to cost of living and everything has to go down too, as far as that would be. But that's just the financial analysis.
I mean, no, that's a good point. I mean, that's why I love you bringing that more practical governmental military type mindset. And I say it kind of jokingly, but I mean it well too, because you bring a really good structure perspective to the question. Because it's like, where is this? I mean, as we all know, if you guys want to get into politics, feel free to, but I'm not going to get into it too much right now. But the running joke is that you have these governmental leaders struggling to figure out a good enough argument to provide us, or provide their people with an additional $600 to support them during these tough times. So, it kind of goes back to like, if they were struggling to figure out how to come up with $600 a month, or sorry, not $600 a month, $600 one time to its citizens, how are they going to come up with $1,000 a month for life unconditionally?
How are you going to have universal, income when where does that money come from?
Right.
You kind of have to break down like the capitalistic kind of approach and path. Here's how I envision it, right? You give $1,000 a month, right? But then that means the government would have to fully control all its resources, meaning like jobs, people, villages pretty much. And so you would have to have like you are a doctor, you're an engineer, and you're a, law enforcement, and everyone else works, to sustain the economy. But like, they'd have to be like set, you'd have to apply for it. And that's the end all be all for your life, so it's more control on a systematic view, but less control on the individual, even though that you are getting $1,000, but everything around you is being controlled because, you can't, there's no of that capitalistic, if I go to Target and I compare Walmart prices, then I go to Walmart because it's cheaper, but I go to Target for equality. It's kind of like taking away your free will almost. But that's a really deep way of thinking about it. So
yeah, well, that's one thing. But going back to original prompt too.
Yeah.
What if the economy doesn't change? At least for the first few months this is enacted. Do you feel like
things are still expensive then, right?
True. Yeah.
Gas is still what, $40
close to $3. Yeah.
Yeah.
$3 a gallon.
I run through $1,000 in a week, just after paying my bills and stuff. So I'm not going to be able to sustain myself. So that doesn't help me. So you'd have to change the economic structure of everything.
Yeah. So let me pose this to you and anybody else too. Feel free to jump in. So you brought up a good point about how is it going to be sustainable? What if to initially start it, this $1,000, this universal income of $1,000 a month, what if all assistant programs get cut immediately and first? So all the maybe everything but Medicaid, but you got
You got the welfare, food stamps,
food stamps, welfare,
Section 8 housing,
all that. What if that FHA even first home, first home buyers,
Jesus.
all that. Yeah.
You might have to ease into those, but hey.
Yeah, Jesus.
Right.
People got lives to live.
Right, that's a banking issue.
It's
You're
only
right.
$1,000.
Yeah. But you see what I'm getting at though? Do you think? To me, I have an answer. I feel like if you cut those programs, let's say you start with Section 8 and EBTs and all that stuff, I still feel like at the end of the day, $1,000 a month is nothing, especially in our current economy, unless you also teach financial literacy. I think that's the biggest thing for me.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
But we're answering, I'm at the top, I'm at the bottom of the page, you're at the top of the page.
Yeah,
Maybe we're in different books, but yes, financial literacy all around. But this is a bigger question of a financial literacy angle where how do you, generate a system to sustain $1,000 a month again? You know what I mean? Like,
right.
You know what I mean? Like you wouldn't be able, like things you do right now, you couldn't be able to do, like having a 9 to 5 and then being able to stock trade and being able to, have rental properties. You wouldn't be able to do that necessarily because I'm thinking at it as if that's $1,000. That's all you can have. Right.
Makes
that's
sense.
Angle.
Makes
you know
sense.
What I mean? If like, why would you give $1,000 to everybody and then also have them say, oh, you can do whatever you want? So do you really need that $1,000 or that $1,000 to go to a different family or to a different project, or we don't have to tax you at all? So there's a lot of doors we can open with this.
Right. No, that's huge too. Because we can always but we can always spin the question too. The idea of you're saying, just for philosophy's sake, that what if there was an infinite stream coming in? There
has to be variables controls. There's no infinite stream of money out there. Come on, I wish there was. But to your original question, if we were to shut down those programs, I think that would have to come after economic depression.
Yeah.
Because those kind of programs get cut first, right?
Right.
And so things crash, our economy crashes, and I think that would be a good answer for sustaining life, because then things would be cheaper, things wouldn't be as valued. You'd get down to what really matters, and so we'd have to have some kind of Great Depression again, like Wave 2, to be able to figure out if then I think that's the only time that would work. Even though you shut down all these programs and assistance programs, you'd have to also come with put a cap on people's salaries and incomes, and it gets really sticky.
Yeah. The biggest sticking point for me was what you just mentioned at the end, is outside of governmental figuring out how they're going to sustain that. I think the biggest thing is our personal income. Yeah. I think, but you're right. That affects the market, because obviously if you are going to be the next Steve Jobs taking over Apple, that is based on the market, wanting more Apple products and wanting a Steve Jobs type product. So you're going to get paid, $10 million, semi-annually, and so, but no, that's a good point. Tyler, what you got? What do you think? If we were to be given a universal income of $1,000 a month, unconditionally,
right?
Keeping in mind what everyone said too about all the structure possibilities, but current economy, how do you think you personally will react, or how do you think society will react generally?
Yeah, for sure. I feel like, I know the last two folks we've talked about, it's just, I think this question is obviously it's one of those things that starts out as a very basic and simple question and forms into this weird monster that everyone's talking about now. And at first, when I was thinking about answering this question, I had gone the route of what Andrew was talking about. But then I was like, maybe I'm getting too complicated and too into the weeds of things. trust me, I thought about
Thanks,
it and I was
Tyler.
like, I don't know how I want to answer this. I was like, I don't know how I want to answer this because I was like, I could be the analytic guy and go into the details and in those weeds and stuff, or I could just take it at face value, or I could go in a different direction completely. It's usually what Zavon does too. He analyzes both sides and then goes into whatever the opposite of both what the previous two people have said at that point. I think looking at the original question of just saying like, unconditional, this money's probably it's coming from just poof magic. The American government, who whatever they, I don't know how they figured it out, but they're just printing money to print money at that point, right? Doesn't affect anything. So at that point, if people are getting that $1,000 a month, honestly, yeah, I think I would probably lean towards the, it's just gonna strengthen the whole idea of a capitalistic society, just because I think you're gonna have those people that are kind of in that middle class that are gonna be probably like, oh, it's nice. They might save half of it. They might spend a little bit. They might splurge, whatever. You got the lower class that is most likely going to hop onto it, and it's going to save lives, kind of thing. They won't have to be like scraping by on check to check kind of thing. Because hey, I'm sure we've all been there, paycheck to paycheck. It's not easy.
Still there.
Yeah,
I'm still there.
Hey, I mean,
what do you mean?
I'm saying it's still a thing. But it's one of those things like, it'll help cushion that a little bit. Maybe they're able to save a little bit. It also depends on your current situation, where you're at. Are you a single parent with 3 kids? How does that affect you? Obviously, $1,000 probably not going to help you that much. Honestly, it's going to help you, but it's not going to help you to the extent of like, oh my God, it's going to save my complete life. You know what I'm saying? There's 3 kids there. $1,000 definitely helps, but it's not going to like fill that, that gaping hole that's going to suck all your money away. Cause that's what it is, in households that have, multiple sources of incomes. If you have 3 people, 2 people, 4 people, whatever it is, you have roommates, whatever, that's obviously going to help you guys. If you're coming from a dual income family, no kids, whatever, that extra $2,000 a month, because each y'all getting it, it's going to help you probably either save or kind of take care of each other's finances, whatever that might be. And then just in the capitalistic way, the rich are going to get rich kind of thing. I think that's just going to how it is. I don't know how much it would change the economy. Well, the economy would change. I don't know, like as an individual level, though. Like I feel like the rich get no benefit from this other than just, adding more to their greed is good type of situation of like capitalism. So they're just like, they're just adding more to their pocket. Folks that are low income, all that stuff, Section 8, it'll help them. But, at the same time, that's free money. So you saw with the first stimulus check, the $1,200, you saw how some people handled that. They're like, oh, $1,200? Yes, I'm going to go spend that right away. And they didn't really save it. And then, there was other people that were tempted to really spend it, but they were like, no, wait, this is free money. They're giving me free money. I got to put this away and save it, because when's the opportunity like this going to happen again, kind of thing. So I don't know. It's just, I don't feel like there would be much change, honestly, in how people react to $1,000 a month, at least in that first kind of initial, year. I feel like it, maybe after a year, it might change things up a little bit. Like, oh, okay, well, excluding like the rich, like I don't think that really affects them as far as like them adding more money to their pocket. It just literally like bolsters their piggy banks and stuff. So, we might see to like what Allie's point and, Andrew's point too, just like financial literacy will come into play after a while. There's going to be only so much that you can do. Like, oh, maybe this is a slap in the face where maybe I should consider saving money or whatever it might be, but there's also going to be those people that are probably going to just be like, well, I don't have to do anything, to others' points, I don't have to do anything. I'm just going to live off $1,000. I mean, it can be done. Sure.
Right.
I think what I would do with $1,000, if ideal situation, right? So you get $1,000, but you still get to keep your job and all that stuff, right? Somehow, some way, in this magical little box, you can keep doing what you're doing, and you're just going to see an extra $1,000 a month. I think I would just put that back into the stock market. I would tell you what, I would probably try to buy Amazon or parts of Amazon or parts of Tesla or parts of, one of those Fortune 500 companies, and just keep going that way. I mean, if it's free money and I'm living the way I'm living and I'm just getting a consistent check from the government, then sure. I mean, that's what I would do.
I would advise dividend paying stocks, man, because they pay you back quarterly. That's what I have. Because Amazon and stuff and Tesla, they don't pay dividends, so you're just holding on to it.
Yeah, but you can cash out and then reinvest into dividend stocks. There's different strategies. So.
Yes, exactly. I was just telling you my strategy. Yeah, I was just telling you my strategy. But no, honestly, I would do the same thing. I would take, just like you, Andrew, I would take that and put that towards a down payment on a rental property, or maybe put that into slap it onto more stocks and all that stuff. Because you're right. I mean, you just answered, going back to the original prompt, is unconditional, $1,000 a month, but nothing changed in our current lifestyle. Oh yeah, I would embrace that wholeheartedly. Yeah. Then we'll all be rich. Yeah. No, seriously. I think in that sense, if we know what to do with it, that's why, like I was mentioning before, even though $1,000 overall as adults, is not a lot, it's still a lot in some sense. There's a lot that I feel like an extra $1,000 a month would benefit my life right now. Well, what about you, Alec?
I think too, it's looking at it like, so if your monthly income is, $2,500, and you're a single mom and you have 2 kids, that's your monthly income. And then you turn that into $3,500. I think that's going to make a big difference for you and your kids in that current state. Because, I mean, people who live paycheck to paycheck, they're deciding whether or not they can get their kid a new coat in the wintertime, or they're going to, put food on the table. So it's like, and I think that's what's at the heart of a universal, like, basic income, because you're meeting those basic needs at the bottom of the pyramid, and trying to make everyone so everyone can worry about, like, what's at the top of the pyramid, like the social aspects, the, like, goals, the dreams, like, you can actually focus on those when your basic needs are met. So I think, like you guys are saying, like, if you can keep your job and that your income's just going to increase by $1,000 at the end of the month, I think that's when it would do a lot of good. In that study that I was reading, and correction, it was Jackson, Mississippi was the area that they did that in. But they were talking about all the federal programs that they have and, like, the assistance that they give out. There's so many restrictions and stipulations that you can't really, like, just get cash for things. So, like, one instance, like, a mom, like, wanted to enroll her son in a science fair and she didn't have the extra money for registration. There's no federal program that's just going to give her the registration fee, because it's like, well, this is only for food stamps at these certain places, or, like, this is only for this. So I think the, like, value of just, like, having cash on hand would do a whole lot for the bottom, like, of the wealth pyramid, and let's face it too, like, those who have less money and are in poverty actually benefit more from having money and going into the economy, because they're the ones who are going and spending it. Wealthy people hoard the money because they make it turn into more money. They don't actually put it back into the economy the way that, like, a basic income family would, because they're going to be the ones going to the grocery store, and then they're paying the grocery store, who pay the farmers, who pay so like, their dollar is, like, more valuable in the sense of in the economy than a rich person's dollar, because they're holding on to it. So it has those benefits too, because it could ripple down through the bottom line, and you raise the bottom line of like the level of living for those folks.
Right. No, that's a good point. The more that I hear your point, and going back to what Andrew was saying too, and ultimately what Tyler summed up, it seems like universal income is or would be beneficial for, I mean, it would be beneficial for all, especially the low and the middle class, middle income class. But it seems like, would you say that it would be more beneficial with conditions per se?
Not conditions in the sense that like of what you can spend it on, or like use it, or like that kind of thing. I mean, I think like there might be like conditions as far as like who qualifies for it.
Yeah.
Like those kind of things. But as far as like spending, like having that cash available and just straight cash, $1,000, I think that's the most beneficial form. But I definitely think like qualifications on who can get it. But then that's also hard to determine, which is why it's not a thing. But
right.
And then if there's the threshold as well, like, dual income, you guys are making over like 200K or something. Do you need it? Is that the like cut off your household incomes, over 200K a year? Like you don't qualify for it anymore, that kind of thing.
Right.
Like if there's that.
No, those are good points too. Again, it's there's no right or wrong answer. This is all theories at this point. But it's a pipe dream that may, it looks like it may happen down the road, if things get worse and worse. But at the same time, it's one of those pipe dreams where it's like, we don't expect it to happen.
Yeah.
But it's
other countries did it.
Yeah. But
during the pandemic, $2,000 a month during this whole time.
Yeah. But
they actually got rid of it, the virus, but hey, it's fine.
Other countries, free healthcare,
it's fine. Yeah.
But the US, we just got to do it. We got to struggle from the ground up to make it happen. But no, those are, it's hard to answer these questions because it's like, we know what we'll do with it. And so I'm gonna get back to you in a bit, Ali, about how it would personally benefit you, that you can imagine. But when speaking for the public, it's hard because, I mean, even now, it's like you hear all these struggles going on, but from your own bubble that we're all living in, we got to do what we got to do for ourselves and for our immediate family, and then whatever's left over, help out friends and the public. So it's kind of hard for us to make decisions for other people who may need that $1,000 a month.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think at the end of the day, what it really comes down to is just prioritizing, in what it comes down to. Because, I mean, speaking from from a general perspective of the larger public, I think the easiest way to obviously answer this question, I feel like for the public side, I think, obviously richer, if it's the rich, whatever, they probably don't care about it. But if we're just talking about the folks that qualify for it, you have that middle class and lower income, at the end of the month, that's going to help them. It's one of those things, and like points were mentioned earlier, it helps at the end of the month, because honestly, I think, to my point, like some people would just go haywire and spend it because, it's one of those things. It's just, they may not have learned financial literacy growing up. They have like this money. It's the first time they've had money and they're just going to go spend it, which, whatever, they'll learn at that point. But I think the biggest thing on it is just that, we can think of these situations to where like some people are going to do extreme things in either direction, or they won't know how to use it. But I think the thing for me is I feel like people who are living like on the margins of whatever economy they're in are probably the most savviest budgeters out there, just because they have to stretch their money, to the furthest point they possibly can, because, as we said earlier, it's just one of those things. I think they have become accustomed to that because there's obviously sacrifices there, like, if you're a single mom and you have 1, 2 kids, whatever, 3, who knows, you make it work. You know what I'm saying? Like if you're only making $1,000 a month already, you somehow make that work and you get that extra money. It's going to be helpful. And honestly, like, yeah, sure, people are going to spend it, but I would say that, just thinking about it, I would say probably more than half of that money. I would say if we allocated percentages of that $1,000, I would probably say like 40 to 50% of it would probably be spent on food, honestly, just because that's just how, folks are. Because I mean, whether you're middle class or lower class, as far as like where your income scale is, I think everyone, in that regard is going to spend their money on food. Maybe you get the whole wheat bread instead of the white bread that's $1. It's like, oh, I can spend that extra dollar on this nicer bread or something, or tonight we eat a steak instead of hamburger kind of thing. It's one of those things. But I think, the most savviest people as far as budgeting are going to be those people that are obviously between that low and middle, because they're already stretching stuff, like we said earlier. I think that's probably the easiest way to sum up the easy answer to the question.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. We're trying to talk about another class of people, or the whole episode tonight is not talking about a whole other class of people, but we kind of started looking at the people who would need it more. It just kind of went that way. Mm-hmm. But I hear a good way to end this kind of conversation. Tyler, you have and I think everyone said the same thing, but Tyler, you kind of phrased it best. $1,000 a month is going to help everyone. And even though as us, who's a little more privileged, would worry about how some other people would handle it, we feel like a majority of people would handle it just fine. I think on a more optimistic note, people will take what they know and what they do with money now and still make it work. So kind of wrap things up. We heard where Andrew came from on a personal scale, what he would do. Allie, on a personal level, would $1,000 a month universal income to your current situation now be beneficial to you or not?
Yeah, definitely. I would just put it towards my student loans. I fortunately don't have a lot. I was able to pay for a lot of my school. But I would just like put it towards those, get those out of the way, couple credit card things, but then just save. I want a house. So I want to get in a house. So that would be a lot of it would just go towards savings for that.
There you go. Tyler, what about you?
Kind of the same thing, honestly. It would help for sure. I don't think free money is free money. It's going to help you regardless. I think for me, it would be kind of same stuff. Just take care of bills and just any sort of like debt that's been accumulating or whatever that might be. Car payments, whatever, you can set some aside and like, oh, I don't have to worry about that for a couple months. So kind of just taking care of those reoccurring bills, monthly bills as is. And then, look at ways to invest the rest. If you take, half of it and just put it towards like bills or whatever it might be, and then the other half you invest in, stocks and whatever that might be, whatever you want to invest it in. That would probably be the way to go, just because, it's like, oh, if it's just additional income to that, to that person, it's like, oh, okay, well, I can help take half of it, help pay off things faster, take half of it, invest it, gain money, additional money on the side. So it's kind of nice in that regard. So.
Yeah. It would definitely help me for sure. Especially in the bills that we have every day, that'll take a lighter load off everything else. But we'll see what happens. I mean, this week we'll see those checks coming in. And we'll see how the our favorite media outlets will portray it, and see how it benefits everyone, hopefully in the long run. But again, anything can happen between now and start of the new year, and so we'll see how it goes. And so that's it. We're wrapping it up for tonight. Thank you, Ali, for joining us again. I think this is something I feel like we can continue to talk about more. Speaking of finances and money, economy is something that can never be captured in one episode. It's something that's ongoing. And so take advantage, take what we felt today and what we answered, and let's see what happens a week from now. Maybe we'll regroup and talk about if anything changed from the last time since we talked about this. So as always, we challenge our listeners to take this question, think about it yourself, start in your own inner dialogue, or take this and ask your friends and start this dialogue with your friends and family. So we thank you again for listening to Our Stories, Your Legacy, and we'll see y'all next week.
Later.